That's not cool. Hey guys, and welcome back. Look at these. They're ready. Just about. Not all of these plants are ready, but it is time to begin my winter hydroponics tower so that I can grow food all year long. Most of these plants are tall enough to go in the hydroponics tower, except for these little guys right here. I'm gonna wait until they get a bit taller before I stick them in the trays. And I've explained the reason for this in previous hydroponics videos that I will link down below. I did this all last winter, so there's plenty of information to be gleaned from those videos as well. But once the pieces of rock wool go in here, the water is going to be splashing down continually into this cup. And when the plants are really short and small, getting continually pelted by water on their foliage like that, it led to a lot of crop loss for me last year in this tower because they were just mildewing and rotting and just not thriving at all with water all over their leaves. So we'll wait until those tiny seedlings I have in there get taller, but for the rest of the plants, we are going to go ahead and transplant them today into the tower. Now I'm gonna get the pump and the water set up in this tower real quick, probably put you guys on a time lapse. And then we will start putting the rock wool cubes into the little cups to be put in there. I have not used this hydroponics tower since last winter. And I did clean it right now before we're doing this. I went ahead and gave it a good wash down to get all the calcium and other minerals off because I have well water. I don't know about the pump though. We might not be doing this today at all if the pump doesn't work, so. Nice. I was guessing it was 5 gallons. I thought I remembered it being 5 gallons, but it is 5 gallons. Well, the pump seems to be in good working order. Forgot how loud this thing was. So we're gonna go ahead and load these little guys up with our tall seedlings, these guys right here. But before we do that, we have to thin out my seedlings. If you remember back to when we seeded these, I put 2 to 3 seeds in each hole just to make sure I had adequate germination. But unfortunately, that has resulted in several seedlings coming up out of a single hole. And you could make the argument that because you're using a hydroponic system and you're giving the plants their nutrients, you could technically put more than one plant in one of these and just feed more into the water. But the problem is these aren't very big. They aren't very deep or wide. And a lot of the time last year, I was having problems with my large plants, such as dino kale or any kale, really. They can get a pretty thick stem and get pretty large. And they were just pulling, the weight of the plant was pulling this cup out of my tower. So while I could technically not thin some of these out and maybe have 2 plants growing in the same space, because there will be enough nutrients for each plant, I'm the one feeding them, these cups won't. allow that to happen. So we're just gonna thin every plant down to 1. It's not like I need more than 48 here in this tower, which is what I have space for. And now we have the process of cutting these apart. So they rip pretty easy. I can just rip this, but they tend not to rip evenly. So I don't want to take off a chunk of this cell just trying to rip them apart. All I do is I come in here with scissors and just cut it straight in half. When they're this small, it's a little bit easier for me to do it because if I can get you guys to focus on this, the roots are coming out of the bottom here. And last year, I had let these get quite a bit bigger before I did this. And the roots were coming all out of the sides, and I was cutting a bunch of roots off, which made me really uneasy because I didn't want to hurt my seedlings. They ended up being fine. But when they are in this smaller state, even if you don't want to transplant them into your hydroponics system at this size, I would highly recommend coming along and at least cutting them apart from their blocks so that you don't have to deal with cutting a ton of roots off when you're going to transplant. So here we've got everything I'm going to be transplanting today. And all of these, I believe, are a bunch of basil plants. I know this is basil and that's basil. I'm pretty sure these tiny ones are too. I just don't know the varieties because I did plant 4 different types of basil. And those are still really low, really close to the rock wool. I'm going to wait until they grow up a bit before I put them in the tower. I do not have to have all of those holes in the tower filled. You can have as many as you want. But what I've got here is a good amount, probably around 30 that I'm going to be putting in today. And then hopefully in a week or 2, this basil will be tall enough that I won't be worried about putting it in there. Alright guys, we are done. Slight change of plans. I moved all of the plants that I had here in the front to the back because that's where my lights currently are. I do not have my lights set up for the 2 bars that I usually have in the front here. I took them down last winter when we were done with the hydroponics tower because they were just in the way. I don't have time to set those lights up today, so for now, mostly all of the plants are facing this back corner where my 2 light bulbs are. So there's nothing right here in front. But after the plants went in, I threw some nutrients in there at the manufacturer's recommendation of the nutrient amount that I put in there. And then I ran the pump for a bit to circulate the nutrients throughout the water. In this early stage of the plant's growth, they do not need the pump run 24 hours a day. It's definitely going to be a drag on your electricity, and the noise can be a little annoying. They do not need water run 24 hours a day when they are this small. They don't have really long roots that can dry out. And they have little trays on the bottom of their cups that hold water. So as long as they're sitting in some sort of water and then every now and then that water gets circulated, then until then I will not be running it all day long. I'll probably come in here every couple hours and turn it on for about 5 minutes, get some fresh water in there, some fresh nutrients in their little tray. And then once they start growing larger, their roots will start to hang down from those trays. And then that's when they're gonna need more constant water so that those roots that are hanging out of the tray don't dry out. And I've gone over nutrient requirements before. I use these set of 3 nutrients by General Hydroponics. There's a green bottle, a pink bottle, and a purple bottle. It's gonna be Flora Bloom, Flora Grow, and Flora Micro, and all of these different bottles provide the correct ratio of nutrients depending on what you're wanting to get out of your hydroponic system. It's really easy. They give you the amount per gallon that you need to put in. So I know that this is a 5-gallon tank, and they require 1/4 teaspoon per gallon for cuttings and seedlings. So I just put 5 quarters, or a teaspoon and 1/4, into that tank of each of the nutrients. It's very simple, very easy. All of the instructions are on the bottle. And this is last year's bottle. It's probably to here. My green one is a little bit lower. I'm not sure how long they last. This has got pretty crusty. It's had a lot of leakage over this last year, but I'm gonna use it anyways just because all of my bottles are full, and we'll see if it hurts or helps. I don't think it would expire, but like I said, I have no clue. So anyways, but this is the one I recommend. It's quite literally the only type I've ever used, but it's just very, very simple, and they provide everything, all the information you could need. And we'll actually put these guys over here on top of the tower. That way I can turn off these lights and save some electricity. But that is it, guys. That is the quick setup of my hydroponics tower, which will hopefully grow me tons of food for minimal work over this winter, because I'm all about the minimal work this winter. I also wanted to show y'all a few ferments I've got going on right now. So here's my ginger bug, which is very healthy. Look at those bubbles. And from my ginger bug, I'm making an apple ginger cider. I see a few bubbles in the cider. I just added the ginger bug starter to the apple juice yesterday. So just patiently waiting to see if it turns out to be good, but if it does, I will definitely do a video. This has been very easy and fun, and I'm excited to taste it. If it works out, I hope it works out. This is my first time. And then last but not least, I have a regular old lacto fermentation going on here with daikon radishes, red onion, and garlic. I told y'all I was doing this in my last video. It's still going. It smells good. I can't wait to pop it open in maybe a week. I'm having to be super patient with my ferments this go around because it's pretty chilly in my house. Keep it at 65 max. In the winter, I'm trying to not use the heater so much. So the kitchen's a little cold, which means the fermentation process is gonna go a little longer than usual, but that's fine. It gives me something relaxing to do over the winter, and I like doing this over the winter because in the spring and summer I'm just completely swamped by the garden, but now I can like build up my skills while I have nothing to do in the garden. But I'm gonna head out and start cooking dinner, and I will catch you guys on the next one.